Magnus, your live, please go ahead.
Okay, I don't see the red. Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Magnus Lindström, and I wish to welcome you all to this summer session of What Works X. I hope you're all enjoying a well-deserved summer break and that you are recharging your internal batteries. Today's session of What Works X will be presented by an esteemed lady who knows one or two things about being positive and the power of building from within and how it can impact your general well-being. Her name is Gilda Scarf, and it is my great pleasure to welcome her to this forum a second time. Her presentation today is titled How to Encourage Students to Stay Mentally and Emotionally Resilient. Loneliness and isolation has been heightened during this period of mandated physical distancing, and we know that these are significant risk factors for mental health challenges. Now more than ever during student summer holidays, it is important to engage in supportive relationships and feelings of connectedness to fellow schoolmates, family, friends, and mentors. The importance of self-confidence in students is also very important and should not be underestimated. A healthy sense of self-confidence is necessary for any child to develop social skills, become more resilient, and embrace his or her full potential inside and outside the classroom. So this summer, it is important to invest in your own emotional well-being, but also to let kids be kids, as they say, at the same time as you build your own resilience. Resilient kids are self-directed and can entertain themselves without a lot of adult supervision, and learning to enjoy your own company is what the pandemic generation needs to thrive. There is not one resilient strategy. Resilience is complex and interactive. It is personal and contextual. We do encourage all of you throughout this webinar to use the live chat feature on the right-hand side of your screen to ask any questions for today's presenter. But now we welcome our guest speaker, Gilda Scarf, founder and CEO of Positive Education. Welcome, Gilda.
Hi, Magnus, and hello, everyone. It's an absolute pleasure to return to the What Works. It's really wonderful to see the investment you all put into supporting young people and parents and individuals to flourish. And for me, flourishing is one of the most important parts of our journey. Now, life certainly has a way of throwing us a curveball, hasn't it? And the COVID outbreak is a case in point, I would say. I imagine few of us anticipated that we'd live through such a global pandemic of this nature, and yet here we are, learning to take each day news as it comes and acquainting ourselves with the rapidly changing new kind of normal. And it is important to remember that it's a time that we need to navigate carefully if we want to emerge in one piece. And if we already consider ourselves mentally and emotionally resilient, then we're in a really great position. So I'm going to share my screen now with you all. And I'm going to ask if everybody would like to put this in the chat box, would be really good. I'm just going to really start with a check-in if possible. And Magnus, if you'll be so kind to read some of the notes. I would like you to put in a chat box, what is your energy level now? Just in this moment, in this specific moment, between 1 and 5, 1 being the lowest, 5 being the highest. What is your energy level you are at this point in time? Yeah. I love to do this because it's kind of, you know, it gives us a little bit of a pause, a little bit of a time to think, because our lives always revolve of what have I got to do? I wake up in the morning and the first thing I need to do, plan my day. Very rarely we actually take a pause to say, how am I feeling this morning? How am I feeling today? What do I need? What skills do I need to employ to make it better in a sense? So the same with the stress level, you know, what your stress level is, how do you feel? And even if we don't have enough in a chat, I just want you to think this is all about you. It's very little about me. It's more about you to go in touch with you and to allow yourself to be honest and truthful the way how you feel. Because sometimes it's okay to feel down. It's okay to your energies not to be quite right where they are.
Yeah.
So that's
We
what
have
that's.
first response. Energy level is 4.
Wow, that's nice. That's
Yeah.
nice. That's nice. The stress level would be interesting to see now how it is between 1 and 5. Hopefully will be low. I'm hopeful. Again, the stress level in 1 it's low, 5 is high. So it's a tricky question on this one. A little bit. Don't be tempted to go for 5 unless you do feel like 5. And again, another important factor beside our stress, it's sleep. The sleep quality we have affects everything we feel in the day, everything we do in the day. Don't underestimate the power of sleep. And obviously positive emotions. So I'm just gonna, because I know, we're gonna have quite a few things, people.
I'll just mention we have a stress level 2.
Stress level 2. That's positive. That's positive. And sleep quality, anybody on the sleep quality?
No answers yet.
Not answers yet. And positive emotion. All these elements, even if you haven't got time or you don't want to get involved with the chat, I just want you to think about it and do this almost every morning and wake up. Where am I at? Because that's going to give you a starting point for the day. And then you know what skills to employ. You need to know how to reframe certain things which might be negative or might make you feel a little bit low in a day. So what is psychological resilience? And, for me, this is one of the most important things which we need to enhance beside everything. That goes for students, goes for parents, goes for individual, and goes for organizations as well. Now, mental or psychological resilience, it's defined as a person's ability to successfully adapt to life tasks in face of disadvantage or high adversity. Now, adversity and stress can come in so many shapes. We all know, putting aside the pandemic, stress about work, stress about exams. Students face all sorts of level of stress about relationships. And we all know that when we have a balanced mental and emotional resilience, we are more likely to be optimistic. We are more likely our confidence to soar, and we have a great understanding towards predisposition of challenge and risk, and means that stoically you have accepted the current situation and you focus on what you can learn and what you can gain. Now, what people with good, strong, balanced psychological resilience have, it's a natural resilience in that face of adversity, and as well as the ability to tolerate ambiguity. And this is, I'm not sure what's happened there. Just bear with me. Okay, this is very important because at the moment we have so many uncertainties. We are facing so many uncertainties from so many parts, and students face a lot of uncertainties about what kind of examination they're going to have, how they're going to catch up with the learning. So there are loads of problems which we are facing at the moment, but concentrating on the things which we can't control, it can only affect our psychological resilience. And some of the common concerns, I work with a lot of schools and a lot of students around the world, and I've kind of tried to make a list about what are the common concerns at the moment. And the first one which came out was relationships. We know that when we don't see each other, when we have kind of we kind of forced in a situation where we don't see each other, but obviously we have the technology, we can connect with each other. It has an effect. Some people are more extroverts. They want to see people. They want to be engaged in having a conversation, a meaningful conversation with somebody where they see their eyes, they see the body language. Now, when you're on a screen, you can sometimes mimic certain language, body language, and may not necessarily transfer in the same way for the other person. Learning needs is again one of the top concerns parents, educators, and students have, because everything we had to adapt, we had to be flexible, we had to motivate ourselves as teachers and educators as well. but as students to learn in a very different way where it's not always teacher-centered. So in a sense, some kids have flourished because they had more autonomy and their learning needs were kind of met in a very different way, in a very surprising way. But we have the other children and the students who are really struggling of making heads of tails about the technology, about having that freedom to do things in your own time, and that requires motivation, requires self-confidence, requires a greater understanding of your meaning and purpose as a student. Why do I need to do it? Because at the end of the day, I could see it as a kind of a day off kind of school. And I know some students have plateaued a lot during the pandemic, but I know also so many students have flourished. So we need to kind of support these students who are plateauing to understand that what they put in is that what they reap out, really, the results. Social anxiety is at its highest, partly because we kind of learned to be a little bit isolated through the pandemic. And in a sense, when you meet people again, you kind of start doubting what you're saying, how you look. So that social anxiety and that freedom of being able to talk freely and express your feelings, it's a little bit skew at the moment. Eating and sleeping issues, again, have been an issue, partly because being at home, everybody has struggled with a lack of kind of structure. So if you're quite highly motivated and highly driven, you can structure your day at home very well. But not everybody is the same, and that's okay. Absolutely okay. We just need to somehow teach our students or even ourselves to structure the day, because the more structure you have in the day, the better and the more you feel worth, a bit worth it, and your self-esteem is increasing because you're doing something which is meaningful and purposeful. Sometimes we do go through that kind of routine where we have to do things because we have to do them, because the work, because the school. But ultimately, when you have a plan, usually you are feeling more engaged in the day and your mood level kind of either stays at a good level or increases, because you've got the variety of the whole day doing something different, and expectation. What is next? What am I doing next? Emotional issues, obviously, a big problem at the moment, partly because communication is not easy to have when you are kind of isolated, but also you kind of leave a lot in your head, not being able to kind of articulate clearly how you feel, because you have this curveball where one day you feel quite okay, the next day you feel quite low, but then it kind of stays there. So the ability to understand how you feel, the ability to be honest with yourself, label those emotions and try to see how you can regulate them. How can you transform this kind of low feelings or demotivating feelings into something worthwhile? And I always say, do something you're passionate about it. Have a brain breaker. Do something really which you love, being music or having a chat with a friend. Do something which is meaningful to you in that moment. Self-esteem and confidence has gone a bit lower, and some people have grown on that, but people who have gone a little bit lower, it's partly because you feel so confined within your head about everything. And in a sense, unless you have a good, strong sense of autonomy, you're going to have a bit of a struggle in that. And I'm going to go through the pillar of resilience, and I'm going to give you more details through the webinar. Behavioral issues, partly because you cooked into a place where we need an outlay, and some people are good at knowing what makes them tick and stepping away from a low point, but some of them they're playing out, and we play out partly because somebody else reacts to our playing out. And if you are not able to kind of marry the reaction to the issue, you're going to struggle. It's going to be a power struggle there. So behavior, it's something which we think, we feel, and we act. and we need to kind of understand what triggers that behavior, not just the symptoms. And motivation is a great thing, but it has to come from within. If it comes only from an external point that, you know, I'm going to do this homework because I have to, or because I'm going to get a grade, if we talk about students, it's not really conducive, because what they do in blocks of learning. And unless students engage with their learning for their purposeful journey, they're gonna struggle. Now, I'm not saying that you always have to say, oh, I have to do homework because I really love doing the homework. You don't have to love it, but you have to be engaged with what you do. You have to be motivated that it's a journey and you are doing this because you want to go to university, or you want to get good grades, or pure and simple because you want to enhance your learning. Now, the pillars of resilience. Now, resilience means being adaptable and to stressful and unforeseen circumstances, and having the ability to bounce back, or even, I like the word bouncing forward, really. Certainly, working to develop this quality will enable more of us to roll with the punches and persevere, no matter what the next couple of months or years will bring, because the pandemic is one of life uncertainties, but life is full of uncertainties. So what are the 7 pillars and how might they have been affected by the COVID? The self-belief. Now, confidence in our own ability and judgment, it's very important. It's the reality you construct as well. When you are in a situation that's not certain, you can find yourself doubting your confidence in knowing what to do. And this is very important, because the narrative you have in your head, the construct of reality you create in your head, it's very important. And when we construct the reality, it's not diminishing what is happening in front of us. It's more important to look at facts, not as just the thoughts. Thoughts are never facts. So we need to look, and also we need to know what we can control and what we can't control. Positive affect, is the ability to interact with life in a very positive way. And when I say positive, I don't mean that you always have to wake up happy in the morning, because you don't. Nobody does that. Without the negative or without the low mood, you're never going to have a high mood. But it's very important to see the positive side of things, that nothing is permanent. Everything is temporary. If you look throughout your life, as a student, as a parent, as an educator, nothing stays the same. Everything evolves. So always remember that nothing is permanent. Everything is temporary, and that is going to affect the way how you see things. It might seem difficult to experience positive emotion, especially if you lack focus. If you feel bored, you have more time to think about negative thoughts than normal, and that is what keeps you into that kind of dark place, so to speak. Emotional control is the ability to understand and express your emotion. If you are, for example, if you're unwell, you may be feeling low, anxious and frustrated. If you feel quite hyped and quite happy, obviously everything around you is going to be looking quite rosy and you know, positive and optimistic. The most important thing is the ability to reframe negative feelings, negative emotions, negative situation, because our perception changes a lot. Our perception is very much, we pay so much more attention to what we think people see than actually what we feel truly. So be always careful about how you interpret other people's perception. And sometimes people don't put as much effort than you think they do. You know, it's your perception about how they view things, and also control your reaction to negative effects. Mental control. Now, when I say, I don't quite like word control because it sounds very rigid, but it's more the ability to regulate that. And for me, the mental regulation is the ability to control your thinking, your attention, your concentration, your focus, your self-awareness, your problem solving, your mind. So if you're at home, you may be feeling stress with the ever-changing demands for mental control. You might be worrying about what's going to happen in the future when you go back to school. Am I going to go back to school? Am I going to be in person? Is it going to be hybrid? It doesn't matter. You need to understand that you have zero control over that. What you need to prepare yourself is, if this happens, how would I react? And if this happens, how would I react? So having the ability to understand you, how you react in this uncertain situation, or when you're faced with an obstacle, it's the most important thing you will ever do in your life, because that's giving you that balance which we all seek. The sense of purpose, it's a very important. The meaning and purpose is very important, because you need to find meaning in little things. Because at the moment, looking far too ahead, it's not going to help you because of the uncertainties we live at the moment. So look in finding meaning and purpose in little things is the motivation that drives you forward, that gives you that kind of good feel inside as well. Your sense of purpose at school or at home may have changed, may have become unclear or overwhelming, but don't lose sight of you, where you want to go, what you want to do, what you want to achieve. This is one of the most important things, because it is about you. It's not about the external factors. It's about how you react to the external factors and make it work in your favor. Coping is the ability we have to adapt, that natural coping strategy we have to learn to use through very stressful and adverse situations. Now, some people, when you're at home and you are spending a lot of time with the same people over and over again, or if you're just on your own, it can create that feeling of frustration, isolation, anxiety, a little bit of loneliness, and sometimes the way we deal with these feelings can make us feel really worthless, and we feel so down. So learning to have a go-to skill, and this is really important, that skill you have which works for you, because it's not one size fits all. We all cope in so many different ways, and it's important for you to know how to cope. Some people cope by using mindfulness. Personally, I can't use it. I'm just like a 200-mile kind of person, and I never have time to sit down and kind of take a breather. But I have different ways of coping, and I always look forward. For me, that's a coping mechanism. I always look forward. What is tomorrow's going to bring? What can I create for tomorrow to make my life a little bit better than today? So find that strategy. It's a breathing. Is it speaking to somebody, looking for social support? Is it finding something you love and doing something you love? Is it something as simple as listening to music, which enhances it decreases your cortisol, so obviously the stress level goes down because you find a way to relax. It's reading. What is it that makes you tick? It's very, very important. And obviously social support, the social network we have, it's very, very important. But please make sure that don't use the social support as a crutch. The social support should be there when you need it. You need to build that inner confidence, that inner ability to cope with stresses yourself, and tap into the social support to be almost like a little scaffolding there when you need it. The most important part of building psychological resilience, so the mental and the emotional well-being and resilience, it's the mindset you have. And if you remember a few minutes ago, I said to you about the narrative you create in your head. And I'm a great believer that sometimes, because of our experiences, because the way how we feel sometimes, we let our emotions cloud our judgment and our mindset changes. So if we adopt a mindset which is optimistic, I'm not saying positive, I'm just saying optimistic. When you adopt a mindset where you have hope, you see things which are temporarily a problem, then it will shape and define the future possibilities. So what we talked about the 7 pillars of resilience. Now I'm going to talk about the 5 skills which will strengthen these pillars. Now these pillars are the most important. Personally and through research, through evidence-based, they are the ones which are going to drive you and strengthen the pillars which you have. Setting goals. Now, I said to you at the beginning that when you wake up in the morning, you need to have a structure. It's not much about setting goals for the future, it's setting goals for the day. Having a structure or routine to your day and trying to keep this routine normal. Try to prioritize your task. Whether that's work task, school task, friends, relationship, whatever that might be, or you have your own well task to help you get better again, whatever that might be, use it and structure your day. It's a famous colonel who did a speech at the West Point, which is the biggest military academy in the United States, and he said your day should start with making your bed. It brings you clarity to the day, and then start planning the day. The second one is think positive. And what do I mean by thinking positive? Notice your thoughts. Be present. Whether they are making you feel better or worse, it doesn't matter. Recognize those thoughts, whatever they might be, and let the unhelpful thoughts go and come up with different reframing for the positive thought. Because it's important that when we feel positive, we have this really feel good inside our tummy. It literally is a physiological impact on your body as well. Your shoulders go down a little bit because you're thinking, oh, it's okay. Things can go better. And every single time I can promise you, things will get better. There are very little things which are so inherently wrong or stop us doing things that we can manage. The only thing which I would say, don't try to control the uncontrollable. You're not going to manage, and it's going to bring you down even more. And sometimes it's helpful to imagine someone who's motivational and what positive things they might say to you. I'm a great believer that self-talk, it's a very important tool which we all should use, because ultimately you need to know you need to understand you need to understand how you feel, you need to be present, but you need what I call the Jiminy Cricket from Pinocchio, which it kind of tells you how it is, not how you just feel. And that gives you an understanding. The more you talk to yourself, the more you break down those feelings, the better understanding you have to move forward as well. Emotional control, we touched a little bit on the pillars, but try to notice how you were feeling. And you know, when we did the beginning about what your stress level is, how do you feel at this moment, where your sleep quality is, what are your positive emotion. These check-ins are very important to keep you balanced, to keep you understanding how you're feeling that day. And once you label that emotion, you need to step back from it. It's very important to know how to step back and then come back and refocus on what you're doing. If you're feeling overwhelmed, ask for help. Nothing wrong with showing a little bit of vulnerability. Vulnerability is not a weakness, it's a strength. And we all need to be a bit more honest with each other, because from the desperation, we have to be strong for our student, for our kids, as parents, and you as a student, if you are a student, if you want to continuously be strengthened, you put that pressure on you, you need to know when to take a break. You need to know how to ask for help. You need to know that it's okay sometimes to feel low and miserable. The most important thing is knowing how to drive that journey from being low and miserable and feeling anxious, define where that stemmed from and reframe it. Anxiety control. Now, notice when you're feeling anxious. Now, I always feel that anxiety is not a bad thing. Now, if you know how to identify when is a good thing, it's a driver, it's a motivator. So a little bit of anxiety, it's great. I find it quite reinvigorating. And the same with stress, you know, we perceive stress to be a really bad thing. How about if we make stress our friend? How about if we actually understand what triggers the stress? And, you know, just before coming into the webinar this morning, like everyone else, I kind of want to do a good job. I don't know you, I can't see you either, which is quite frustrating. I can see your emotions, I can see your body language, I can see your eyes, I can't see anything. So I'm talking to a camera, thinking that I know you might be out there feeling certain things or thinking, oh, this is working for me or not, but I wanted to do a good job. So I have this pang a little bit in my heart, you know, a little bit of a good anxiety, I call it, but that motivates me because I want to do a good job. Now, the only thing I can do is the best job that I can do. I can't do better than that. There might be better people out there. There might be much more creative people out there in terms of how to engage people. But I can only do what I can do, and I need to be certain that I'm happy with that. So I rehearse, I learn, I bring the evidence, I research as much as I possibly can. And then if I am happy and confident in what my delivery looks like, it's okay. Okay, something might go wrong today. I might say something which might not resonate to some of you, and I might feel that it doesn't resonate with you. It's okay. It's okay. And that's what I want you to take from this as well. It's okay to feel anxious. It's okay to feel a little bit stressed. Use that anxiety and that little stress as a friend, not as an enemy. The moment it becomes your enemy, you just continuously like this. You fight with that all the time. And usually stress, anxiety wins. Don't give it that power. Don't give that power to something which you can manage. Very important. And this is one of my favorite, mental rehearsal. Mental rehearsal is something which I use a lot, and in the army, it's used a lot by the soldiers, because where you need to know where your mind is at. You need to know what distracts you, what is helpful, what is unhelpful. So recognizing these elements, it's a great thing. But then refocusing on what you want to achieve, it's even more important. So try to imagine yourself doing and completing an activity to the best of your ability. And this will increase your focus and your motivation. And mental rehearsal is almost like visualization. So visualize yourself where you're at. Visualize yourself where you're going to. But remember, that is a journey. It's not going to be like, oh, I'm going to jump from A to B. Everything is going to be wonderful. You need to remember everything about psychological resilience, confidence, emotional resilience, focus, attention, self-efficacy, self-belief. It's you. It all starts with you. And if you imagine this on a positive note, in an optimistic note, you'll see it's going to have a positive effect into your life. Now, obstacles will come, will go. And you just have to remember, like in a domino effect, that you actually go through them, but you just kind of, every tile you bring down, that's your obstacle. And if you imagine every obstacle, whatever that might be, in your exams, in your work, in your relationship, see them as something you deal with, not just knocking it down and accept to go away. Dealing with things when they happen, reframing negative things, it's going to help you to work through. But mental rehearsal, it's taking a positive from something you've done well, and keep rehearsing it, keep going through. What did you do well? What worked? What were the skills you employed? Was your persistence? Was your grit? Was your perseverance? Was it the fact that you never give up? Was it the fact that you went with a positive mindset and you say, you know what, it doesn't really matter if I fail, I'll pick myself up and I'll do it again. Very, very important. So I don't think you, feel free if you want to, you can go to join-to-slido.com and put the hashtag D991, or you can put it in a chat box and Magnus will read out. Where do you think the confidence comes from? Because without confidence, our psychological resilience is not going to increase. Confidence, it's really quite deeply rooted in ourselves, and it's a skill you can learn. It's a skills you can develop. And again, it's a journey. You bring your confidence layer after layer after layer. So Magnus, I don't know if anybody will put that in a chat.
Yeah, I'll put that in the chat for you. I'm just waiting for any thoughts. Just give them a couple of minutes.
If not, I'm going to put you on the spot, Magnus. How about that?
Where does my confidence come from?
Where does your confidence come from? We all have, it's not, I can give you the definition, of course, and I will, but it's more about when do we feel? We never ask ourselves, where does that confidence come from? Mm. We always kind of thinking, well, it's confidence, you either have it or you don't. That's not true. It really isn't true. We need to know where it's the lack of confidence coming from, or where is the confidence come from. Very, very important. Mm. So, what do you think?
It's a combination of factors. It's a very much, if you're working towards this particular task, it's rehearsing, of course, making sure you understand the question you're about to answer. But also, I think it's environmental. It's the family, and it's the surroundings and so forth that builds you and makes you, and yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's absolutely true. It really does. And I put this thing because I absolutely love that. I read the book called The Zebras Don't Get Ulcers, and it really made me laugh. And I was like, what is that all about? And what they say that the zebras don't respond to thoughts of lions, right? Mm. They respond only to the real lions. So the thoughts, they don't care. Well, as far as we know, but humans respond to thoughts of lions, and humans experience that stress in response to the relationship we have with our thoughts. And this is how we construct our reality, because what we think sometimes might not be real. Always question yourself, is it real? Is that threat real? Is that failure real? And if it is real, what can I do about it? Is it the end of the world? It's not permanent. It's not there. So what is confidence? We talked about the 5, the 7 pillars. We looked at the 5 psychological skills that will help you to strengthen your pillars. Now I want you to practice these skills, okay, each day, so that you are as resilient as you can be. Now, what is confidence? Now, confidence is not something that can be learned, like a set of rules as such. Confidence is a state of mind. Positive thinking, practice, mastery, training, knowledge, and talking to other people are all useful ways to help improve or boost your confidence level. And confidence comes from feelings of acceptance, acceptance of your body, acceptance of your mind. That's self-esteem. And I'm going to give you at the end the difference between confidence and self-esteem, and the belief in your own ability, on your skills and your expertise. And confidence is also an attribute that most people would like to possess. It's a great thing to possess. We all want that. Now, although self-confidence can mean different things to different people, in reality, it's very simple. It's having faith in yourself. Now, confidence also is in part a result of how we've been brought up. And Magnus, you touched that about the environment, how we've been taught as well, what we observe. We learn from others how to think about ourselves. We learn from others how to behave. These lessons affect what we believe about ourselves and other people. And confidence is also a result of our own experience and how we learn to react to different situations. But self-confidence is not static. And I think this is what the most important thing, that well-being, psychological resilience, emotional resilience, it's never static. It goes up and down. Our confidence to perform roles and tasks and deal with situations can increase and decrease on a daily basis. And some days we may feel more confident and some others not so much. But low confidence can be a result of many factors. And this is, I want you to concentrate a little bit on this, because the fear of unknown, the fear of uncertainties, the fear of criticism, being unhappy with your personal self, either appearance or the way how you think, whatever that might be, feeling unprepared, poor time management, lack of knowledge, or even previous failure will bring your confidence low. And often when we lack confidence in ourselves is because of what we believe others will think of us, unfortunately. Now, perhaps others will laugh, will complain, will make fun, will take the mickey out of us, and especially with students, it can be have quite an effect on them. But thinking like this can prevent us from doing things we want to do or need to do, because we believe that the consequences are too painful or too embarrassing. So what does lack of self-confidence looks like? So it's important to remember that low confidence has the ability to strip away your ability to be proud of what you accomplish. And I can promise you, every single person has something to be proud to be accomplished, but we never pat yourself on the back, you know, because you kind of, if the expectation is there, you kind of go ahead and just think, well, it was expecting me, I did it, it's fine. But when something goes wrong, when a failure happens, then everything goes, it's like a stormy cloud hovering over you. And it happens to students all the time. The students I meet all the time, high stress exams, highly critical professors, competitive classmates can all bring a student's perception of self-worth and their own ability crashing down to the ground, especially during the school time, and especially this transition between hybrid and being in a school. Even students that perform very well beforehand can be shocked at the huge jump in difficulties or the ability to manage that stress. So if you see somebody who, you know, just a little bit of a display of how the low confidence is displayed, doubt, being submissive and not actively seeking challenges, feeling overwhelmed and emotionally charged, being hypersensitive to criticism. Again, not great. So being on a low spectrum is not good. But how good is to be on on the other side of the spectrum, overconfidence? Now, in addition to the internal deficiencies, there will be some more external consequences to the low confidence. But when we come to the overconfidence, that can be a problem in itself, because it makes you believe that you can do anything, even if you don't have the necessary skills, necessary ability, or knowledge to do it well. Now, in such a situation, overconfidence can lead to failure. So we really need to find a way of striking that balance between low and over. And don't be scared that it goes up and down. As I said, it's a curvature. It will be, but just be aware about what keeps you down. And then when you're overly confident, make sure that decisions you make, they're not affecting your future. And I said to you before the difference between, I wanted to kind of strike the difference between confidence and self-esteem, because they're not the same. And sometimes people put them in the same kind of bracket. They are linked, undoubtedly, but they're not the same. Confidence is the term we use to describe how we feel about ourselves, the way we look, the way we think, the way how we show ourselves in the world, in a sense. Self-esteem is how we feel about ourselves. So it's not about the ability, how we feel about ourselves, the way, you know, that kind of self-worth, the way how we perceive that we're clever or not, that we can deal with this, that we're good at maths, that we're rubbish at, you know, at something else. So people who suffer generally with low confidence, they will have a lower self-esteem as well. But people with good self-esteem can also have low confidence. I don't know if they are surprised by that. So it's also perfectly possible for people with very low self-esteem to be very confident in some area. So try to distinguish that and try to look at the uniqueness and the strength you have. Now, I don't think we have a lot of time to go through this, but I want you to think that confidence also comes from building that personal brand identity. For me, it's very important to know what makes me me. what is the unique things about me? Because we're all unique in our own ways. So finding your strength, finding the abilities you're really good at, finding your skill set and work on them, spot them in every situation. And that's not diminishing the weaknesses, because we all have weaknesses, nobody's perfect, but concentrating on the strength, it brings your weaknesses up and it makes you be aware of them and learning how to manage them the best possible way. So what are the ways to improve confidence? Now, the first one is by managing your emotion, labeling, understanding what you feel, making sure that every emotion you feel, it's labeled correctly. You know, anger and frustration, not the same thing. Being able to articulate, having that emotional literacy of understanding the emotions thoroughly, labeling them, and then regulate those emotions. Being able to kind of make sense out of them. But sometimes just accepting, today it's not a good day, it's okay. But tomorrow it's going to be a much better day. So these two sides of improving confidence, managing the emotion and building the confidence by changing your outlook. And I talked a lot about perception and constructive realities, because I think sometimes we're not very honest with ourselves. The way how we perceive things, it gives us, you know, we have this kind of, it's called my side bias. We kind of want to fit in with how we feel. So we construct the reality based on our feelings, not on the construct of truth and reality. So every time in front of a problem, reframe it, look at it from all angles. Don't look from only one lens. Look as much as you possibly can from every single part. Now, the ultimate aim is to feel more confident in yourself, more confident in your ability. It's more confident to see how you see yourself and how do you show up in front of others. Because sometimes your perception of how people see you, it might be a little bit distortionate. Try to be quite honest about it. And, you know, it's not about fixing what's wrong, because most of the time we're trying to improve our abilities, you know, and, you know, we're not perfect. But if I know that I'm not quite brave to stand up in the front of a room and talk, you know, I have to do a presentation at school or in a workplace, then I will try to find ways which I find my strength. For example, I might ask a colleague to do it with me. So look at different ways of approaching things, change your outlook. The moment we reframe things, we have a better ability to look into achieving that level of high confidence and ability in our self-esteem, increasing our self-esteem and ability to define what our future is going to look like. So one of the other ways to improve is planning and preparing. People often feel less confident about new or potential difficulties when they lack preparation. Now, definitely one of the most important factors in developing confidence is planning and preparing. If you're applying to, you know, if you're having an exam tomorrow, if you're applying for a new job, if you meeting someone new, it's a good idea to prepare as much as you possibly can. Plan what you want to say. Plan your work. Don't overcrowd your work. It's so important, because when you crowd everything else, your mind has only a little bit of ability to hold everything together. So it's layering, 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 layering. Learning and knowledge, very important in ours, because learning and knowledge is not the same thing. You know, when you learn something and you understand and get an understanding of something, completely different things. Now, learning and research can help us feel more confident about our ability to handle things. Knowing what to expect and how and why things are done will add to your awareness and will make you feel more prepared and confident. So learn to gain knowledge. It's very important to not cram, to focus, to engage in whatever you do, your task. Engage for shorter amount of time, because our brain only has that ability to stay concentrated and focused about 15 to 20 minutes. Then have a brain breaker. Just have 5 minutes doing something you love, or just doing something energetic and then refocus back to where you was. Focus on you and your strength. Very important. Don't focus on the exterior. Don't look at the social comment. Don't compare yourself continuously with others, because there will always be somebody better than you. Every time, there will always be somebody better than me, somebody better than you. But it's more important about focusing on what you can do, your strength and your ability to succeed, the way how you define your success. Recondition the way you think about your life. You know, create that narrative I said to you before, where it's not creating just a positive life. Create a optimistic life. Create a pathway where you define yourself as a person by your own values and your own principles. Accept compliments and compliment yourself. Not good at this. British people definitely not good at accepting compliments. So you just got all flustered and, you know, kind of thinking, oh, thank you. And they don't know what to do with it. You're almost embarrassed. Learn how to accept that. But also be kind to yourself. You know, you're doing a lot of good things, but you don't see it. They're not as visible as they might be. So recognize this. Go to bed. Before you go to bed, think about 3 good things which happen in the day. Don't focus on what you want to fix next morning. Think about the things you did well. That will encourage, it will give you the power and motivation to wake up in the morning refreshed, to say, do you know what? Today's another day, but I can do better. Use criticism as a learning experience. Not many people like criticism, and I always find it quite constructive. I never take it the wrong way. Now, some people might feel offended by it. I tend to take this as I'm going to learn, I'm going to listen. They might be right, they might not, but I will still give it a good shot of trying to understand why they said what they said about me. Now, if I feel it's uncool, or I feel that they've been mean, or I feel that they're trying to undermine my self-belief, then I walk away from it. Don't let that shatter your own self-belief. You know, criticism should be constructive, should be something which you learn from it, not something which doubts, definitely. And definitely find yourself a confidence role model. Now, some people look at celebrities, some people look at in your family. I don't know, I kind of constructed my own role model, and that's me in 10 years. And I wish I could tell you that's my thought, but it isn't. I listened to a speech and by Matthew McConaughey. He's actually an actor, and it shocked me when he said, the hero I have in my mind, it's myself in 10 years. And I hope to God I will never catch myself. And that really stayed with me. And I think, actually, yes, I want to be myself in 10 years, because hopefully I'll be more wiser, more knowledgeable, and I will never stop learning. That's the most important thing. Never, ever, ever stop learning. It's so important for all of us that we see our life full of learning experience. If I was with you in a room today, I would have learned so much more. Because by your body expression, by your smiles, or by your frowning, I would learn something, and I will adjust my knowledge, my delivery, my delivery of this webinar potentially in a different way. But when you speak to the camera, you need to adapt. So I need to make an assumption about how you might feel today, or what you might take away today. And that takes me to the takeaway home message. What can you take away to do, beside the fact that I would like you to practice the 5 pillars, the 5 key messages which support the 7 pillars of resilience? I would like you to think about being aware, being present, being accepting who you are, but not, when I say accept who you are, accept how you are in the moment, but always build yourself towards something. Because at the root of many of these tools and strategies for building your mental toughness, or your mental resilience, or psychological resilience, are self-awareness and acceptance. Because in order to enhance and improve and build your existing mental strength, we must be aware where we're at. That's the reason we do the check-in. Check-in every morning how you feel, because when you accept that's where you're at, then you know where you're going with it, you know. Only then you can begin to take the step towards a stronger and healthier mental state. The other one is obviously self-control, and don't control what you can't control. I keep saying that. And I know as people, we always do that a lot. You know, we react first and we think later. Not everything is controllable. Your mind can be your biggest asset or your worst enemy. When you learn how to train it, it can bounce back from difficult situation. It will seek challenges, will see challenges as opportunities, not as obstacles. Even if you fail, and you can accomplish incredible feats if you wanted to. So everything, your mind has the power to control in a way everything. So if you know how to train your mind to be optimistic, to be engaged, to regulate your emotion, if you want to experience great overall life satisfaction, you must be in a good mental health. And you have to recognize when sometimes you're a bit wobbly, and you need to also understand that if you're wobbly, if this wobble is the much more wobbly than the normal wobbly you have, seek support. Nothing wrong with that. Mental fitness includes strength, includes vulnerability, includes resilience, includes bouncing forward, because then you can see what went wrong. So building this muscle may be very challenging, and it might take years of effort and commitment, but the benefits of being mentally fit and resilient will be seen in all aspects of your life. Enhanced performance, better relationships, greater sense of well-being can all be achieved by these mentally healthy habits. And if somebody tells me that you can't, I will say that's not true. Every one of us have the ability to change the narrative. We have the power to make things happen for ourselves. We just need to keep practicing. And the only way you can pick practices is creating new habits, understanding where we are in that moment and creating a new habit. And creating a new habit takes time. Everything about psychological resilience, mental well-being, mental health, it's a journey, it's not a destination. Be very much aware that we can all improve everything about our lives. We can learn optimism, we can learn to be more confident, but you need to put the effort into it, and don't let anything from outside deter you and define who you are. So I hope that you have some takeaways from here, and I hope that you have learned something positive, and you have taken some strategies which you can use on a day-to-day basis. And as again, don't expect miracles, but do expect that if you put effort into it, you will gain a lot of strength. Thank you.
Thank you, Gilda, for that detailed and very informative presentation. It's so wonderful. You didn't give in to your anxiety, and you showed us what mental resilience is all about. You visualized your journey.
I did, and my heart is still pumping, but it's pumping well. You know, it's just like kind of saying it's excitement. It's excitement to see you all here. It's excitement to have an opportunity, to be grateful. You know, we're so not grateful for what we have. We keep looking outside, and we use COVID now as a good, it's not an excuse. I'm not saying it's not, it's real. We live through it, but we should so be grateful. We have so many good things in our lives. And why not concentrate on the good things which we have and be grateful for it?
Absolutely. I know we're possibly over time, but for those of you who wish to stay back, please do so. We're now going to move on to the Q&A aspect of this webinar, and we've received some pre-submitted questions from our audience members. So I'm going to ask Gilda a couple of questions now. So the first question that we received is essentially addressing a child that is feeling depleted, alone, and in a corner, who wants to rediscover their uniqueness. Where should they reach out? Online communities, anybody in school, take on a new sport potentially, or seek a different community than the one that he or she meets every day in school. Perhaps an internal journey. What does that look like? How does a teenager best build their mental resilience?
Wow, that's a question and a half. It's a brilliant question. Firstly, as a parent of a 17-year-old son, and I know what teenage years do, because you forget as a parent how your teenage years were. And also as a researcher, as a psychologist, it's quite a scary journey sometimes, you know, because parenting doesn't come with the book, does it? And whatever research says, when you see it at home, it's not quite the same. And you're thinking, but I know these things, what they look on paper. I know the evidence. Why can I not apply? It's not about kind of applied. It's actually understanding your child. It's giving a space and active listening to him, because there are nuances with the kids. They don't always tell you in such an articulate way how they feel, but they give you cues. Now, as I said with you, the support, the social support we have around us is very important. But for me, the social support, in a sense, I use that as a beautiful thing, as one to give me a little bit more of a boost. But I want to be responsible for me. And this is what I did with my son, and I do with the students which I work with, giving them the skill set to be having autonomy about themselves, building that skill and resilience. If I feel low, what can I do? What can I do as a person? And we usually go through the elements of what am I good at? What gives me pleasure? What gives me happiness? Is it sport? Is it a musical instrument? Is it speaking with friends? Is it actually taking a moment for myself and understanding how I feel? There are and one of the things with education at the moment is that one size doesn't fit all. No program in the world is going to touch every single child. So what we can do is just make young people aware of these skill sets, you know, like if you feel down, instead of bombarding your child, oh, you know, it's going to pass, don't worry about it. It doesn't matter what you say. If feels down, and if he feels down, he needs to understand that it's okay to feel down today. But what is it? And just be gentle, just give him space to think and articulate, give him space to, and prod, but don't nag. Because what happens with teenagers, they go back inside themselves and then they isolate more from you, you know, and they're not going to open up, and you want them to be open. So, you know, don't make, oh, let's sit down and talk about how you feel today. No, let's not do that. You know, but if you had dinner and you said, how was your day? And say, oh, you know, not so good. And said, oh, what happened? Just be a little bit light with your approach. It's very, very important for young people not to feel cornered. Because even when they know that they need to build their resilience and their skills, they feel like, oh, God, here you go. It's like a lesson. Here you go. You're preaching me again. You preach at me again. So you can't be seeing that. So role model a lot. Very, very important. If your kids are very good at copying, they look at you and maybe they don't consciously think, but they will copy your reaction. If you have a fight with your partner at home and you react in a very negative way in front of them, they'll say, oh, it's okay. So they take the cues from you. So just be mindful, but also be kind, because, you know, we all fail as parents. Crumbs.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Gilda. We have a live question here from a lady called Teresa. It's also in relation to the same topic. When communication breaks down at home between children and parents, how can educators intervene to stabilize emotional turmoil? So more bringing it over to the school, and the educators, what can they do?
Well, to be honest with you, the schools, I generally think the schools cannot exist without the parents, and the parents cannot work without the schools. It's very important to remember that as a parent, you see the school as your friend, as your critical friend, and vice versa. Now, I work with loads of schools in Dubai, and I am absolutely delighted to say that some schools are really placing so much importance on well-being and mental resilience, and give the children the ability to look inside and see how, through a series of approaches. And some of them, they've got like programs implemented in the schools on mental well-being and resilience, because it's not well-being, it's such a multi-dimensional construct. and what means to me and what means to you, Magnus, is very different. So kids are the same, but educators, I have to say, they do have the power to make inroads. But again, I hear from educators that whatever they do in schools, it gets undone when they get home, because parents, rightly so, sometimes they spin, they are like a hamster in a wheel. They have to go to work, they have to come back, they have to look after the kids, they have so much to do. But taking 5 minutes, 10 minutes on your day to just sit there with your child. Sometimes communication can be non-verbal. Look at the cues from your kids, but also if you do have concerns as a parent, go to the school and say, what do you do to support these kids emotionally? What can, tell me what can you do, and what supports do you have in schools beside the counselor? Because counseling is great and it's very much needed in schools, but we need to create our young people into autonomous, hardworking, but also kids who understand the why. Why do I feel this way? Why do I need to come to school? When I started school, the first thing the kids go, because I have to. I mean, that's not a great thing, is it? Now you don't want to say, oh, I want to come to school because I want to learn, because I want to be a famous scientist. You don't want that either. You want it to say, because I'm seeing my friends, because I'm learning new something every day. That joy of learning is very important. But I think communication between the parents and the teachers has to be paramount, and honesty has to be there. And just be blunt. If something is not quite working, ask the teacher to monitor and just to give you a bit of a feedback. And as I said, confrontation is not the greatest way to approach with the kid. Just be gentle, just find a different way, the little small nuances in the way how you perceive certain things about your child, and then just kind of gently say what there needs to be said and see how it goes.
Thank you, Gilda. We're now going to move on to more sort of a more live reality that's occurring at the moment. When it comes to rituals and sayings to repeat to motivate yourself, most recently there's a lady called Simone Biles. I'm sure you're all familiar with her. She's a world famous American gymnast.
Yeah.
She's been in the press over the last couple of days. She has withdrawn from the individual Olympic Games all-around competitions to focus on her mental health. Now, with sports psychology, what is she going through at the moment, you think, Gilda? And what is she going to do to get ready for potentially compete next week? Essentially, for her, in her case, she has to match her mental health with that small window, the short Olympic window that is 2 weeks. What is your thoughts about what she's going through and how she has to energize herself somehow to go out there and face the world?
I think it's a very great question, and I've been the same with the French tennis player who again, and I was really shocked to see in sports, because you don't expect in sports, do you? Because you think they are mentally tough, they go out there, they have a high expectation, high performance, high efficiency, and it just proves that we all deal with stresses in a very different way. And I was so surprised, because one of the things which made me didn't come as a surprise for me when she said that I'm quitting, was that she at her apparatus, she didn't do well. Obviously her expectation was high.
Yeah.
Now a mentally tough person, I can tell you, that will have said, okay, I worked 4 years for this. We had a lot of uncertainties, but I did my very best. My very best wasn't great, but you know what? Okay. And with the Olympics, it's very hard, because 4 years is a very long time to come back, and she's going to get older and she might want to step away. She might not want to do it, or she might just say, do you know what? This is my mental state. Okay, I didn't do very well. It happens. I had a terrible day. The problem is that the way how she put her pressure on herself, we don't know the external factors, obviously, from her coach and everything else. Yeah. And I think this is the problem with sports psychology and mental toughness in sports, that people always say push through the pain. I always feel like I have to defend the word that mental toughness is about push through the pain, no matter what, because you're capable. That's not what it is. If you want to look at a real mental toughness in sport, go to see the All Blacks.
Mm.
Learn from all the Blacks, because that's a coach which I wish I could clone. I wish I could go inside of his head, because the failures the All Blacks had till they became successful was tremendous, and they still pushed through. And then at the high of the career, they went down again, and then they came back. So for the gymnast, very difficult. And I think it's she lives in her head at the moment.
Yeah.
The pressure is a cooker pressure. So the pressure she put herself, the pressure from the world, the American people, they want her to succeed. Of course they do. So
the press is having a field day, yeah.
Oh, it's having a field day. And the thing is, now you put yourself in that situation, how would you cope? When you are just, so she needs to actually.
They want gold.
Yeah, exactly. Of course they want gold. We all want gold. Who doesn't want to be a winner? But the thing is that now she needs to step away from this, all from the negativity, what is happening, and then reassess what she wants.
Yeah.
And I think her choices are very limited. And I think she had no choice. And I think when you take choices, look what happened with COVID. We had no choice. We had to be stuck in a house. When the choices are taken away from you, and we had a discussion yesterday, isn't it? How much different your day is today in time of COVID than it was before. And then you're thinking, well, it's very different. Well, how? When you ask actually people, they don't kind of articulate. You still do your job. Yeah, okay, you work from home. Well, it's a kind of a positive, because I can do a bit of washing up, and I can do a bit of, housework, whatever it is, and I can maybe be more efficient. But the reality is that construct of reality which we have, and this is what saddened me about her, because I really felt that because of the other apparatus were not her best, doesn't mean she would not have been successful. But the fact that she gave up, it is alarm bells for me, because her mental health is suffering, and it's not easy. It's not like, get over yourself. Oh, you can't do this because you've done it in the past. Now she needs to really step away from it, and she needs to learn to go back to a white canvas and build her mental health in the best possible way. Very difficult, and it's really sad. It's really sad.
Thank you. We're going to move on to two more questions. So you touched upon COVID there. So with the onset of COVID and all the new challenges and uncertainty it brings with it, COVID has also allowed us to land, to ponder, to stop and breathe. How can we make something positive out of this tragic pandemic? So my question to you is where is a good way to start? How do I categorize my thoughts or feelings better? Do I get an Excel spreadsheet out, or do I sit the whole family down? Most people, we wish to be more present right now. We wish to live in the now, but this is easier said than done. What are your thoughts on that?
It is, and I think, this is what upsets me sometimes when everybody talks that, let's reimagine education. Let's look at the future of education. We're obsessed with predictions. We think that nobody can predict. No researcher can predict anything beyond 365 days. Scientists cannot predict anything about COVID beyond a week or two at the moment. So we can't concentrate on that. So what we need to do, we need to find our meaning and purpose. What it matters to us. The only way, you can take an spreadsheet, you can write in a journal, you can do whatever it is, but be honest with yourself. The most important thing, be honest with yourself and reevaluate, because I have to say, for me personally, it has been a time of reevaluation, because I felt like a hamster on a wheel for many years with the travel everywhere around the world. I actually looked at the positive side. I actually reach more people now. I've got more time. I build more confidence and more conferences than I've ever done before, because before I could only go about 4 or 5 times a year, because obviously you go from America to Southeast Asia to Dubai, you can't fit everything in. So you see that I see that as a positive. It does upset me, of course, that I would love to see people. I would like to see their body language, but it doesn't happen. So what I would say, redefine your meaning. Redefine your purpose. Where do you want to be? Be honest about it and take the right steps towards it. Don't be scared of change. Change is good. See the little things which can create that well-being, and you need to be happy with what you do. You need to be happy with who you are. And that personal brand identity is one of my favorite things, because if you really truly find who you are, you know, like a brand, if you're Nike, you know, you can do it, just do it. For me, that's just like amazing. Just don't overthink things, just do it, see what happens.
Just do it. Absolutely.
So
I wish to just quote yourself. You know, you've said focus on the process, not the end result. And I wish for you to maybe elaborate a bit more on that. You refer to this in your well-written booklet titled The Little Book of Confidence, that life isn't about pursuing perfection, but instead of making progress on your journey. If you just want to share a few words on that.
Yes, I think we are obsessed with the destination. And it's not unusual. We all want to be well, we want to be successful, we want to perform well, we want to be seen by other people, that we add value to our society and our communities. But the reality is you need to be perfectly imperfect, first of all. There is something like that, because without flaws, you're never going to know what a perfection is. But when I think about the process, the destination, it's not about necessarily the small goals. Is when you understand who you are, when you understand what your strengths are, and then you find your meaning. This process is very important, because it's about each single step you take every day, and you need to find that joy in everyday step. And your day might not feel positive throughout, but the step you take, that should be a positive step towards something, and when we feel that we're progressing towards something, our state of flourishing, which again, a multi-construct, and I prefer flourishing than well-being, because flourishing, it's always like a bud, like a rose bud, where you keep growing and you keep evolving. You're not stagnant. But again, concentrating on the things you do well and are meaningful to you, but also monitor a little bit of the process and the progress, because this systematic thinking we have, it can be a little bit blurry, and it's not a good thing.
Thank you. I just wish to let everybody know as well that Gilda has written a beautiful book called The Little Book of Confidence. And I'm going to put Gilda's email address here in the chat. So whoever wishes to obtain a copy or a link of that beautiful book, it is, so 1 second, I'm going to put Gilda's email address here, so you can all email her. 1 second, here we go. There you go, all of you. Fantastic. I just want to touch upon one last question here as well regarding inclusion. Looking at children of determination, inclusion, what tips and tools do you recommend to bring a positive mindset to sort of interactions which can sometimes feel difficult to approach? I'm thinking about, the tone of voice that we use for these children, for the body language and your actions, which can sometimes be misread or misinterpreted. What tips and tools do you recommend for when we approach children with determination?
Yeah. Well, we shouldn't really, I know it's a two-phase one. I say don't treat them differently.
Correct.
But your language has to be very consistent. Unfortunately, as human beings, we use languages, for example, when we give feedback, we're trying to give a positive feedback. Magnus, you did very well today, but, you could improve. Well, that's not a constructive feedback. So language has the power to change somebody's emotion. The way how we communicate is very, very important. With children with determination, again, most important is eye contact. And if some kids obviously don't like that, it's fine. But some find is drawing their attention towards something they love. If it's not our eye contact, let them get something which are they feel safe. Building that psychological safety with the children of determination is very important, because when they feel safe, they will start opening up. But language is important, body language is important. And also remember, you can't hurry a child of determination. Patience. Patience, it's one of the greatest skills you have, and you need to give them time to think, the time to kind of adjust to even that little, even if you move them from one class to another, to a room, that transition, it's, for you is nothing. Well, what does it matter? But for them, be able to read nuanced body language from them. And I think this is very important because we do a lot of training on for the children of determination, partly because the body language, the communication as well is very important. But it's not something you can learn, of course, but you just have to be very, very mindful and also tease things out of kids. Don't always offer, because you need to know the only way you can find out is by questioning, not by always giving them. I know your desperation is to help. It's wonderful. But the same goes for any child. Don't always be ready. Just go there and just, I can help you with this. No, just take a step back, question things, give them time and space to grow, and give them time to kind of fail, because we do say about failure a lot, but we don't actually allow them. And as a parent, I can tell you that I'm doing this as a conscious parent. I am trying not to be to infer too much. My son comes and says, I got a B. My first thing, what do you mean? What happened? And I'm the first one to, and he said, do you remember, Mum, what you're saying about grades? And then I think, oh God. So now I learn to be, okay, what happened? And sometimes he doesn't want to talk about it. And I need to give him the space for him to make sense about what happened. And then he will come back to me. Or then I will say, what do you think went wrong? What would you do differently next time? And you know what? It's okay. And I think it's important that, we're not, because we say the right thing in the society. And educators and parents, it's okay to fail, it's no problem, but it's lip service. It really is lip service. So, failure is not the problem. It's learning how to pick yourself from them, giving the kids the right skill set to say, oh, okay, what have I learned? What do I do next time? Oh my God, I haven't studied a lot. No surprise, I got a B. Or what do I do better? Those things. And when they have structure, kids need structure to understand. It's not the pressure, because the pressure makes them stop learning. So we need to give them that structure for them, how you work best. What can I do to support you? But that's it. Not I'm going to do it for you because you don't know how to do it. We don't want snowplowing parenting. I'm trying not to be a slow parent. I really am trying, and it's a conscious thing, because the first thing every parent wants to support their child and to be there for them. It's hard not to, but do not do them any favors, because if you're not there, if a pandemic happens and you're in a different country, what are you going to do? How are you going to support them? They need to have that innate ability to cope with things.
Gilda, thank you so much. This draws this webinar to an end. I wish to say big thank you to you, and I wish to say thank you to the audience for logging on and signing in. And I wish for the audience to have a wonderful, wonderful summer, the rest of the weeks until school starts in September. And just to let everybody know, I'm posting here in the live chat as well for those of you who wish to access this webinar again, this presentation, or if you wish to access any of our other webinars that we've hosted throughout the last semester, please log on to New Ways, New Days. New Days, New Ways. That's what it's
New
called.
Days, New Ways.
Yeah.
That's a really good way. Good words.
You'll find some fantastic material there to support your education, but also all of the previous webinars. So thank you all. Have a wonderful summer, and bye-bye from Gilda and myself.
Thank you very much. It's a great pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.